Hi everyone, I'm Sal, co-creator of Salt and Pepper Productions,
And hi, I'm Pep, co-creator of Salt and Pepper Productions.
and we're back with another The Promised Neverland video. Today we're going to talk about Season 2, Episode 11 of the Promised Neverland anime. This episode is the final episode of the season and of the show as a whole, so in this episode, we're going to talk about our thoughts on this episode specifically, and in a separate video, we'll probably talk about our overall thoughts on the season. So, Pep, what were your overall thoughts on this episode? And then we'll talk about specific plot points in this episode.
So to give my funny answer, you know that scene from like the live action Grinch movie that was made like in the early 2000s?
Which scene?
Oh, well, yeah, I should probably specify that one. The scene where he's like on the cliff of the mountain with the book, he's like, hey, 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 hey. You know that one?
Yeah.
And he goes, loathe and tired. That was my feeling about the ending of this episode. Loathe entirely. I did not like the way they ended the episode. It's like, hey, let's just take an entire season or multiple seasons and just jam it into the end of an episode. What?
Yeah, you could tell that there was a lot of content from the manga that they decided to skip over. Like, basically, there's obviously a bunch of stuff that happens after the kids go to the human world and Emma, Ray, and Norman decide to stay behind. So, we'll probably have to check out the manga at some point. But anyway,
Yeah, like I don't like this for fun. Besides that, I was right. I called it. Rattery would not join them. I did not expect his response to trying to join them. I thought he was just going to run off and actually, I thought he was going to be shot. I thought he was going to like try and fight them and then get shot by one of the mothers or sisters.
I remember last video I said that I thought he was going to grab Emma and then try to escape, and Isabella and the others wouldn't be able to do anything because if they try to shoot him, there's a chance they'll accidentally hit Emma.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I
But
expected him to try to escape, and maybe there'd be this big chase scene and that would result in somebody falling off the wall into the chasm.
no, no, no. He just waxes poetically about how they're all fools and that he'll be laughing at them from hell, and then proceeds to cut his own throat with a knife that apparently is completely retardant to blood. Because that
Yeah,
that
I noticed that too. Like, it was.
the knife falls. It's like, that's a very clean knife. That must have been
I
like
was like,
sharpened at the nanoscale.
it reminded me of, like, remember how when we watched episode 4 and it really annoyed me that Anna kept writing the wrong years down in her journal?
That's another one. Like that knife has no blood. You know that they were just running out of money near the end, and they're like, you know what? We don't have enough money to either to make the ending scene or to put enough blood, so we're just going to make the ending scene and leave the blood out of this.
Okay, yeah. But yeah, I
Yeah,
agree.
no,
Like, I was not expecting Peter to commit suicide. That was very surprising.
yeah, it's just like peace out.
And a
I
pretty
mean,
gruesome way to do it, too.
yeah, I mean, with a knife, probably the cleanest way to do it with a knife. But like, still, still, I still expected him to get shot. We have still yet to see the MP4s to be effective in this show. So far, they are still worse than bow and arrows.
I mean, Isabella fired one shot last episode when Peter pulled out some remote switch or something and she shot it out of his hand.
Yes, but it didn't hurt anyone. You could have done that with a stone. What I'm referring to is the fact that like the soldiers earlier who were like, yeah, we're gonna take out this giant monster with these MP4s, and it fails, and Ray just shoots a single arrow into one of its eyes, and it just explodes, and it's just like MP4 is worse than bow and arrows. We have completely messed up in our technological development. Time to go back to Stone Age.
Well, again, Sonju did say aim for the eye.
But you would think they would have been prepped on this. They just sent them in with no knowledge about how to fight the flora and fauna of this universe. They're just like, if you get attacked by a monster, just shoot at it. You don't just stormtrooper it. It will work. You'll hit something important eventually.
We should get back on topic. We're starting to.
Drift everywhere.
Yeah, we're starting to drift away from what happens in this episode. So, anyway, before Peter
That's
committed
funny.
suicide, we get this short flashback sequence of him explaining why he decided to have his brother James killed and why James decided to become William Minerva in the first place. So, as we learned last episode, the Rattery family, the Rattery clan, they were the ones who created the promise with the demons to split the worlds in half, and they've been the gatekeepers ever since. And in this episode, we learned that the Rattery family made up a lie to justify the farm system, and that lie was that the children in the farms, they're the descendants of these rogue humans who wanted the war between demons and humans to continue. So basically, they created this lie to justify imprisoning these humans and having their children slaughtered for food. And James discovered this. He discovered that the people who were sacrificed were actually allies, not enemies who wanted the violence between humans and demons to continue. And he was horror struck by it. But Peter said that he actually thought it was a brilliant idea. Peter liked that humans were willing to put their own personal desires, their own emotions aside for the greater good, that they were basically willing to sacrifice a few to protect the many.
Yeah. I mean, I do think that like his whole montage at the end there kind of changed my opinion. Because like before, I said that I think he's like a pretty greedy person, and that he's just trying to preserve his own position. But I think he actually does believe, from the way he responded to killing his own brother, like the amount of torment it put on him. I think he actually does truly believe in the system. That system is the only thing that was keeping demons and humans from killing each other. Which is, I also think, why he ended up killing himself at the end.
Yeah, he truly believed in upholding the Rattery legacy.
Yeah, I will also say, I found the fact that these were supposedly the people who wanted war, that the kids are the descendants of the people who wanted war between the demons and the humans. I found that kind of coming out of the blue right there. It felt like that should have been something that was like mentioned earlier, and then all of a sudden it was like a big reveal that no, that's not actually what happened. It was actually a betrayal of some of the allies of the Ratteries, and that the Ratteries had betrayed their comrade.
I guess in
Because
order
like
for that to work, I mean, the children learned about the promise between the humans and the demons from Sonju and Mujika, and I think Sonju said that basically the promise was made and then humans were left behind as gifts to the demons, and those humans became a part of the farm system.
Yeah, but the way I interpreted that is that there were like humans and demons living in both worlds, and that when they came to the agreement, the demons who were in the human world went back to the demon world, and the humans who didn't manage to escape before like a cutoff date into the human world were just enslaved in the demon world, or that like some number of them volunteered, or some number that like the ones who were already in the demon world were just left there, and the humans went off to their side.
Hmm.
Understanding of it originally, it was like they weren't saying that, oh, we're going to give you this group. They were more saying that this, not what would it be? It would be um the humans are already there. You can do what you want, but you don't come across this line. Was the way I interpreted it. But that also kind of plays more in my mind to the original idea we had, that it was like a world with two continents, and there's humans on one continent and demons on another.
Right, and that's not the setup as we discovered.
Yeah, yeah, no. I still thought it was like, oh, whatever humans are left over there, not hey, we give you this group of humans, you can have whoever remained over there, and then they just hunted the remaining humans who had stayed in their world to near extinction. That was at least my like, oh, that came out of nowhere, and it felt like it should have been more emotionally impactful, but it's like those tidbits of information fell so quickly that like they didn't have the resonance that, at least not to me, that I thought they should have had.
Yeah, I wonder. I feel like. I don't know how the kids would have. Like, how do you think they could have brought it up sooner than later? Like, how would the kids be able
I
to learn
really think
about
it would have.
that?
Um, I'm going to give the thought that if I was directing the anime, I would have included, or if I think the way they did it, and probably the way they probably did it in the manga. Because I haven't read the manga, but I do know that at least about a scene that was left out of the anime. So I think that the way they could have done in the anime is either when they were talking with Shinju could have mentioned, and they left behind, and the humans who were um, proponents of a war between the humans and demons were given as tribute to be to the demons as an offer of peace, and those are your descendants.
Their
Or
ancestors, because they're the
yeah,
descendants.
oh yeah, you are their descendants. Or when they were meeting with when they were talking with one of the demons, like in the last episode, or not the last episode, the episode before, when they were talking to the older demon, he could have, while he was having his like sort of conversation, he could have mentioned, oh well, it's funny because your ancestors were you are the descendants of the humans who wanted a war between the demons, who want to continue the war between the demons and the humans, but here you are trying to make peace between the demons and humans.
Interesting.
Like they could, I think that could have done. It doesn't have to be that far off, but like putting that little bit of information so that we understand that this is the world, and then finding out that's a lie adds a bit of betrayal to the Ratteries. It kind of because I think what it was supposed to do is saying, oh, the Ratteries were actually really backstabbing. They didn't just sacrifice; they tricked their allies into becoming slaves, and then profited off of their enslavement,
Hmm.
which is, I think, the intended like sort of shock, like emotional shock that got to Minerva, but didn't get, but that also that didn't get to Peter.
Hmm. Well,
Um,
I get what you're saying. That, yeah, that definitely would have been a cool form of storytelling. I especially like your idea about how, what if the grandfather demon said, it's ironic how your ancestors wanted to continue the war, but here you are trying to end the war. Like, that would have been pretty cool. But at the same time, Sonju
Yeah,
did say your ancestors were left behind as gifts. And
yeah.
Peter even
But like,
said you can't have peace without sacrifice. So I feel like they sort of implied that humans were sacrificed for the greater good, but I get what you're saying, how
yeah. Well,
that
the sacrifice for
it
the
could have
greater
been
good
more
could have been.
satisfying if they, like, it would have been more satisfying or interesting if they took a different approach to the storytelling.
Yeah, but sacrifice could be everyone draws straws. Whoever draws like a straw below a certain length gets sent off to the demon world. Or we take all the orphans and kick them off to the demon world. Or you know, the firstborn son of every family gets sent to the demon world. That sort of thing. Or the firstborn child of every family gets sent off the demon world, and that sort of thing. Or um, as I said earlier, those who don't make it back across to the human world by a certain time are permanently stuck in the demon world, and their descendants become, or their descendants become the children of the farms.
Hmm.
That was my understanding of it, at least. Originally, but like the shock value of they were supposed to be a, because it's kind of ironic that those who wanted a war were then given as the peace offering. Like that was kind of like the irony of it,
Hmm.
or at least the irony that like we're told in this episode, and you don't get that payoff if you're not told that until you're then immediately told the next emotional hit, which is that the Ratteries betrayed their allies and then pretended that they were their enemies.
Hmm.
And you get that extra like sense of betrayal, and you understand, and now you understand emotionally what, not just the fact, like the thing that changed Minerva's thoughts so well. It feels like it was rushed, you know. That like maybe in the manga they had more time to like develop it. I'm imagining that like in the manga there was some scene that we never got where this information was somehow given to the kids, or at least implied to the kids, that we just never saw because they seemed to have limited time.
Hmm.
More limited time in the anime, and just had to like cut it. I don't know why they ended up rushing so much. I don't know if like it was a budget issue or if they just never got um the approval for like another season or something. Or we're told like we're only doing 2 seasons, so the second season got rushed.
Hmm.
So, like the ending of this season versus the last season is, I think, different. Like the last season, a lot of things happened very quickly, but it feels very well paid off. And this that also happened here with them escaping. But then as soon as like after we get past them escaping, it just feels like everything happens all at once really quickly. Well, not them escaping, but them breaking in. You also get that like payoff of like all these little things coming together, and then you just get this like giant rush of information at the end, and you're like, wait a minute, there's a lot here that was like never touched upon. Like I mentioned earlier to you, the whole dragon and Emma walking on water sort of thing. Also, the fact that there's a queen of the demons that was like never mentioned before.
We've heard
Like I was
about the
under the
nobles before, but we never heard
yeah,
about
but
the queen before this episode.
I thought the nobles were the people running the farm. I thought that when they killed the farm, they killed like the leaders of the farm. They killed like the leaders of the society. I didn't know there was another organization out there because they were never mentioned or even like hinted to. Really, like the fact that there's a nobility we've only ever heard about, or not nobility, but there's a queen. We've only heard about the farms, and I thought nobles was just, referring to the people who ran and operated the farms. I don't know. That's my thought process. Like, oh well, we now we know there's a queen, and then the next thing we know, she's already dethroned. Like, okay, that happened really quickly. We know this happens over a lot of years because we see the kids grow up. So basically, we lost an entire like we got the rest of the story, but we got it in like a format of like we don't know how any of this happened. There's a whole other bit of narrative here that we just never got.
Hmm.
I don't know. That's my interpretation. I'm sorry, I'm rambling now.
It's okay. So anyway, I want to take a step back. We'll get into the ending later, but there's some other stuff that happens before that that I want to
Yeah, I know. I
cover.
just jumped right to the end. Like I hate the ending. Loathe the entire.
Anyway, so so during Peter's flashback, we learned about how William learned the truth about the farm system, and we learned how Peter thought it was a clever plan, and he admired that his ancestors were willing to put personal feelings aside for the greater
For
good, as
peace.
I was saying before. And one interesting thought I had was like this episode heavily implies that Emma reminds Peter of William Minerva, how they're both people who kind of put their emotions and their own personal feelings ahead of everything else.
Hmm.
How James is like, I don't want these children to die. I'm going to set up this elaborate plan to help children escape. And how he and Emma seem to believe that Peter was trapped by fate because he was born into the Rattery family,
Hmm.
and how William was trying to break away from that legacy by James was trying to break away from that legacy by becoming William Minerva and making a change, and Emma was trying to break away from the destiny the farms had in mind for her by helping children escape.
Yeah. Um. It seemed that Peter was very much driven by the idea of this is you have something you're born to do and you have to do that and you can't escape that sort of destiny or that fate. And his fate was to be a rattery, to be a gate guardian. And if he viewed that like what his brother was doing was like maybe maybe what's the word, misguided, good but misguided. So like that he thought like, oh, he's trying to do something good but he's like going about it in the wrong way, and I can't stop him, but stop him by like I can't talk him out of it, so I have to get rid of him even if it um hurts me. And I think that's an interesting thing because he or the interesting thing I think, sorry, something just like moved in my wall and I got very confused. uh I'm pretty sure like that was either a rat or something, like yeah, I'm pretty sure a rat just scampered through the wall, or a mouse.
Um, that's not
We have
good.
mice. I live in the woods. We have field mice all the time around here, especially in the spring. Especially since it's cold today, so they're like just running into the house. Don't worry, my cat will be very happy to stare at the fridge later.
Okay.
By fridge, I mean any cabinet in this house, because he just like kind of stares at them. He's like, come on out, mouse. I want you. Sorry, that's a very distracting thought.
Um, you were
Yes, everyone on the
saying?
internet now knows that I have seven mice. What I was gonna say is like there's a nice parallel between the way he glorifies the his ancestors' ability to put their own feelings aside and do what he views as the greater good, and so he kind of emulates them later when he puts his own feelings or his love of his brother aside to
Mm-hmm.
do what he thinks is best, which is to put his brother out of the way so that he doesn't screw up the system that's preserving everyone,
Mm-hmm.
so that he can then preserve the system and do what is right,
Mm-hmm.
even if it means his own pain. Um, and all that, which I think is also kind of why he couldn't accept what Emma did, is because it's saying, because if he accepted what Emma is saying, he would have killed his rather for no good reason. And I don't think he would have been able to live with that.
Mm.
What do you think?
Yeah, that's something I actually didn't consider. How if Emma was right all along, then he essentially killed James for no good reason.
Yeah, even if he like, um, even if he did agree that with Emma, he would have to then do something to atone for what he's done. Like they say, I remember what Ray said to the sisters and to Mother is that like go on, you have to go on living, and living, you now have the opportunity to atone for what you've done.
Mm-hmm.
But what could James do?
Peter.
Peter, not James. James tried to redeem himself when he found out the truth. But if Peter agreed with Emma, what could he have done to atone for killing someone in cold blood? Essentially, um, not just someone, his own brother, someone he knows closely. Even if he didn't kill himself, having him killed, and then on top of that, also being responsible for the torture, maiming, and death of hundreds to thousands of young children, innocent young children. Well, innocent is implied with the young children part, but to emphasize innocent young children who his family is also responsible for having put there after betraying.
Mm-hmm.
And I think even if he did accept, which he might have he might have accepted that he was in the wrong. Him killing himself was probably him taking the easy way out. Like the mother and the sisters were willing to stay and to fight and to die in this world, presumably, as their easy way out and their easy atonement. But instead, they had to go on living.
Mm.
I don't know. I think there's like an old quote. It's easy to die for something. It's harder to find something to live for.
Mm.
I don't know. That was my very random collection of thoughts that should somehow make sense if put together in the right order. That I can put together a coherent thought is, not possible. But like,
So anyway,
those are my random. Oh, go ahead.
sorry. So
No,
anyway,
it's fine.
speaking of Isabella and the others, as you said, after Peter committed suicide, the children were about to head to the human world, and they even said to Isabella and the other sisters, "You should come with us." And Isabella tried to refuse their offers, saying that they should stay behind and they don't deserve to go over. And then
Mm,
Ray chimed in, saying that you need to come with us, atone for your sins, forgive yourself. And he talked about how because I'm alive, I was able to atone for my sins. It's your turn now.
yeah,
And because last season, Ray tried to light himself on fire. One, to
yeah,
create a distraction. Two, to have the last laugh and figuratively give the demons the finger. And
mm,
three, because he felt he didn't deserve to live and escape with the others. He talked about how he let so many people die, he used so many people, and they were all really good kids, so he felt that he was undeserving. He was undeserving of freedom and life. But
yeah.
because
It's
Emma and Norman found out about his plan, they were able to stop him, and he was able to make up for his past mistakes by helping Emma and the others in the outside world by being a protector to them.
yeah.
And
I think
basically,
it's
he wants his mother to have that same chance.
yeah. I think it's a nice parallel of one of like what happens in the first season repeats itself at the end of the second season, but now you also see a nice compare and contrast of someone who was able to take on the burden of what they did and um, presumably redeem herself along with all the other mothers. Um, and the person who wasn't able to accept what they've done and to keep moving forward and work towards redeeming what they've done or paying for what they've done. Because like, or I don't know if that's really makes sense that like Peter and Isabella are sort of like opposites in a way because they're both responsible for some kind of heinous things, and both were doing it for what they viewed as the right reasons. And Isabella was able to accept her what she's done and move forward and work towards like a better world and fixing what she's done, or at least atoning for it in some way. And then Peter wasn't, if it is true that he accepted what he did at the end. I just think that's a nice parallel, and it's also a nice reflection from um, Ray's earlier arc in the series, where he, you know, oh, I won't sacrifice myself, but I will continue to live for um, them. Sort of his. It was easy for him to die in his spite, but it was harder for him to learn to live for his family or his. Yeah, they're his family. You know,
Yeah, and
and to protect them.
yeah, and Isabella even said, "How could you forgive me so easily?" And Emma talked about, "Yeah, it was hard to forgive you because for a long time we saw you as our enemy, somebody we had to fight and defeat. And it wasn't really until we were in the outside that we were able to remember how good you were to us." Because
Yeah,
I remember in episode 5, Emma was talking about how hard things have gotten to survive now that they've lost their shelter, and she was beginning to have doubts about bringing everyone into the outside world. And Isabella kept trying to encourage them to just give up, accept your fates, enjoy the rest of
mm,
your life, and have a quick death. Basically, just trying to protect them from the despair of learning that escaping is going to be difficult, if not impossible. Escaping from the despair that might await them if they do manage to escape. So I think that
yeah,
might be part of it. And another thing, which we talked about last episode, is one of the themes of this show is how sometimes people do bad things not because they're evil, but of because they feel it's necessary. Like with the demons, they were eating
yeah,
humans because if they don't eat humans, they'll degenerate, so it was necessary for their survival. And how the Lambda kids, how they were attacking not humans, they were attacking demons and killing demons, not because they were evil, but because they believed they had to get revenge for what happened to them and for what happened to other humans. They thought they had to create a world where humans could be safe, and they felt it was necessary, like this was the only option. And
yeah.
I remember in our season 1 video, Russ said that he thought Isabella and Sister Crone were interesting because they
Mhm.
were forced to make a decision at 12. You can either die or you can live to be mothers and sisters and basically have
Mhm.
all these children have the same fate that all your siblings had. And because of how young they were and what a terrible situation they were in, you can't really hate them for making that decision because they're just trying to survive. Like
Yeah,
it was a necessary evil to them that they had to commit.
yeah. Everyone, people don't view themselves as the villain. Everyone is a hero of their own story,
Mm,
even if they're doing terrible things.
right. And I feel that maybe after every going through, I think Emma's perspective of Isabella has changed drastically after being in the outside world and seeing how the demons weren't inherently evil and how realizing that Isabella wasn't inherently evil, how she genuinely cared for the kids and was doing what she thought was right.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, she even said, at the end of the day, you're the only mother we've ever really had.
At the end of the day. Yeah.
So they can't really hate her after everything that's happened.
Yeah. They forgive her, and she's given her chance to, you know, not to live a good life at the end, which I think is really sweet. And so are all the other sisters and mothers.
Mm. And it was nice that Ray was the one who chimed in to and convinced Isabella, like, hey, I was able to atone because I'm alive, now it's your turn. It was nice that her son was the one who gave her that push when she initially refused Emma's offer.
Yeah. The child saving the parent, the youth redeeming the youth redeeming the old.
Mm.
I think there's like a I think there's like either a trope or a literary tradition of some sort of narrative of an older generation or something committing a sin, and then the younger generation eventually being the ones who atone for it and wipe the slate clean,
Mm-hmm.
which I think kind of is interesting. Again, goes back to the whole missed opportunity for one line. One line. It took one line. It would have taken one line, and it would have been like that much better. Oh god, one line. One line. Oh god, one line. I'm sorry. Just one line. Just, like when you're thinking like, it's like they storyboard it and all that, and they're like, you know what? We're gonna cut things from the manga when we're making the anime. But you know what we can do instead of just cutting scenes from the manga and seeing and you know what, and then just throwing them in. You know what we can do? We can add new scenes to make it more sense. More sense. I don't know what happened there for a second. Make more sense. Even if it's just one line, and now it makes more sense. And then like
Do you have the
you get
hiccups?
the apparently not really. I did. It was just one. Knock on wood. Knock on wood. Did I ever tell you my dad had like the hiccups for like a week? That's not a joke. He went to the hospital.
Oh.
He was fine after that, but like every time he has a hiccup now, he looks like he has PTSD. That's not a joke. This actually happened.
Oh, wow.
When like the hiccups start hurting after a little while, I just imagine that for a week.
Mm.
He jokes about it, but like he'll get a hiccup and you just see fear on his face. He's like, not again. Not again.
Back to the show.
Another great thing to look for. Yeah, away from personal life, back to the story. All right, where were we? I forgot entirely.
You were complaining how you thought there was a missed opportunity. Anyway.
Yeah.
So
Um.
Isabella and the other mothers and sisters decide to join the kids. They activate the elevator. They go down the elevator and arrive at the gate to the human world.
And they get welcomed in.
Can I just say that door kind of reminds me of the door in Full Metal Alchemist?
Oh yeah, I was thinking that too. Reminds you of the Door of Truth. Honestly, when that scene first started and they were like starting to descend, I was like, they better not just have a long elevator ride to the other side of the planet. I will be so mad. Um, no, I was actually expecting that when they turned the handle, that like the whole floor, like the floor was gonna open and it was gonna be like the portal, like they had to jump into it or something. But like the door did look a lot like the one from Full Metal Alchemist. I
Right.
think any large door now looks like the door from Full Metal Alchemist.
And there was an owl on the door to the human world, which is interesting because William used the owl on the book plates. So apparently, the owl, it's not a symbol that he came up with, presumably. And I think during Peter's flashback sequence, we saw humans
Yeah,
wearing owl masks. So, which is interesting, which makes
yeah.
me wonder, what does the owl represent
It's
exactly?
probably the Rattery crest, the crest of the Rattery family, probably.
Hmm.
That's probably what it is. I also like the fact that like when Peter was dying, he was like talking to his brother, and then there was the scene of the owl flying away, and it was sort of like a oh finally free, that like the owl in the cage was Peter, and Peter was in the cage of living his fate, and so was James, but now they're free.
Hmm.
Well, James is free first because he rebelled, but Peter, because he chose to follow it so rigorously, even if it probably tortured him to a bit. Like it doesn't seem like at least the death of his brother tortured him. Um, he was not the only freedom he had was freedom in death. That he, or at least in his view, the only freedom he had was freedom in death.
Hmm.
I like that little scene of the owl flying away and then the one feather left.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was nice.
Interesting. I
Yeah.
wonder because I think during that flashback sequence we saw. I'd have to double check to be sure, but I think we saw humans wearing those owl masks, those owl outfits, and then we saw them being clutched by demons, which makes me wonder, are they connected to the Rattery family or are they connected to the humans who were sacrificed?
I don't think we'll know. We're not going to get any clarification on that in the anime. That's going to be have to be a
Obviously,
manga
because
story.
this was, yeah, obviously, we'd have to check the manga. I was just
Yeah.
speculating for
No.
when we do get
I
around to examining the manga.
I didn't notice that, so that's a good eye.
I'd have to double
That could
check.
have been interesting if it was. Yeah. I just kind of assumed the owl was like the crest of the Rattery family, so that might be interesting.
Potentially.
Maybe it could be a representation that like, despite the fact that the Ratteries are like um on the human side and have so much power in the demon society, they're still in the clutches of the demons because they have to keep the demons happy, and maintain this sort of horrible social order in order to maintain the peace between the humans and the demons.
Hmm. Potentially. I like that
Yeah,
idea.
I don't know. I just like symbolism. If you haven't noticed yet, um, yeah, I will say, this is maybe skipping ahead a little bit. When they went into the door and the door started closing, I had this really horrible thought of what if the door closed and the door on the other end doesn't open and they're just stuck there between the worlds. I was like, that's a terrible thought. Why am I thinking this? We don't know how to operate this door. We're stuck in limbo between dimensions. That was a horrible thought. I don't know why I had that. I just wanted to share it.
Anyway, we see the kids open the door and they begin to walk through. The mothers begin to walk through. The children begin to walk through. Phil, who's been holding Emma's hand this entire time, begins to walk through, and Emma lets go of his hand, and then all the children stop and we're like, wait, aren't you coming? And we learn that Emma, Ray, Norman, Barbara, Zazzy, and Sislo are all staying behind. Vincent
Mm-hmm.
is going to go to the human world, but everybody else is staying behind. And then we get a
Yeah, and Vincent becomes
flashback
a doctor.
to. Yeah, Vincent becomes a doctor. And then we get a flashback to when the kids were in the underground tunnels last episode. And when we recorded the previous video, I suddenly remembered, oh, there was a scene where Emma said, "Hey, Ray, Norman, I want to talk to you about something." I forgot to mention that last episode. So, anyway, in this episode, we find out what they talked about. And Emma basically said, "I want to stay behind and try to help children in the other farms and to try to create a new promise between the human world and the demon world."
Yeah.
And Norman decides he wants to stay behind too because he's seen how bad the conditions are in other farms, and he's already rescued children, as he mentioned in a previous episode, and he wants to go back for them. And Ray said that he wants to keep an eye on the nobles and whatnot.
Yeah.
So
Well,
basically,
I think they.
they're
Oops, sorry, go ahead.
acknowledging that even though they're about to escape, there's still a lot of progress to be made. So they're gonna stay behind while their siblings get to go free.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Um. Yeah. And then they immediately begin the cutscenes.
And
Also.
and during that scene too, Mujika said that she wanted to help Emma and the others. She said something like, "I've always wondered why I was born with this blood. Since I've met you, I think I know the answer. It's to help change the world." Which kind of makes you wonder because
Yeah.
we've talked about gods in this show a bit. Like throughout this season, characters kept talking about gods and everything, and how it seemed that Mujika was perceived as a god, or and how she was a savior to this village many years ago before the nobles tried to wipe out people who were like her, who had her blood. Which kind of
Yeah.
makes you wonder, like, did the gods actually send her creator to try to help save the world, to help save demon kind?
Yeah. What was I gonna say? I think that if you think about it in that way, the gods gave the demons the opportunity to get better, but the demons had to do the legwork of actually making the world better.
Hmm.
Because like they didn't just go bippity boppity boop, all your problems are solved. They put Majika in the world, and they gave Emma into this world, and they gave them a supernatural ability to. Well, one literally has like a supernatural ability to stop demons from degenerating, and the other superhuman compassion and understanding of others. Um, and let them, go along their journey of trying to fix the world, sort of, um, setting them up to make the world a better place. But they're the ones who ended up having to do it. It wasn't done for them.
Right.
They just had to suffer, and you know, um, Emma definitely suffered. She lost family, and she had to live in horrible conditions for years, for or at least a year, and then had to go through what we can assume to be years of journeying and fighting and all that in order to, in those last couple of cutscenes, in order to like accomplish their goal of making the world a better place. Um, and Mojika had to had to be hunted down and had to watch as all of the people she had helped are hunted down and killed. But yeah, I don't know. The gods thing is also like only kind of mentioned occasionally. We don't have a very good understanding of the theology or the religion of this world, but I think that might be a interesting way of putting it.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I talk for way too long.
No, it's It's okay. So, anyway, the Emma and the others split up from the group. Isabella and the other children go to the human world. Emma and the others stay behind in the demon world to try to resolve the conflict that is still at hand, because the nobles and the queen are still in power and there are still other children that they need to go back for. And then we get two separate montages, one that focuses on the children and adults once they return to the human world, and another one that focuses on the trio with Mujika, Sonju, and the Lambda kids.
Mm-hmm. Where we get Jesus Emma. Jesus Emma walks on water and talks to dragons.
I think that dragon was also in Peter Rattery's flashback. I'd have to double check. Like, I'm sure on screen I'll show if the dragon appears more than once in the episode, but I'm 90% sure we saw that dragon during Peter's flashback as well.
If it was there, I didn't notice it because I have the attention span of a squirrel.
But yeah, so let's talk about the human world montage and then talk about the demon world montage.
So, do you think that that city they popped up into was New York? Was I right about them popping into New York?
Yeah,
it looked like New York.
Yeah, that was what I thought. Like, oh well, I guess you were right about them arriving in New York City.
Just pop them in New York. Hi, New York. How you doing?
Of course, it's New York City.
It could have been Tokyo. It is a Japanese film or show.
True, but like they don't have Japanese names in the show, so
They could have popped up in London or Berlin, Rome. I don't think Rome would work. We have no Marios. No one is named Mario. Yeah. Besides the fact that no one in New York City has a face, it seemed like they got like a pretty normal adolescence.
Yeah, it was interesting.
Technology.
It was interesting seeing them dressed in normal clothing instead of the farm uniforms or their survival gear. Like
Yeah.
seeing Dawn dressed like a normal teenager looking at a smartphone.
Yeah, that was weird. Also, technology apparently didn't progress in the last decade or two. That is between 2021 and like 2 decades between 2021 and 2040. Like, it looks pretty early 20th century rather than mid 20th century there. I don't know. That's just my opinion. Like, oh, hey, that train looks pretty modern, not very futuristic there. No, I'm kidding. I mean, the trains are cleaner than the ones in actual New York, right? I visited New York once or twice.
And also during that montage, we saw Isabella sitting down with some of the children, and she was playing a guitar, which I thought was nice because we know that her childhood crush Leslie was a musician, and that song that she was constantly humming and that Ray even hummed to himself on occasion was a song that Leslie wrote. So I'd like to think that Isabella decided to learn how to play the guitar as a way of honoring Leslie.
Yeah. I think you're probably right on that. We also got a lot of cool scenes of them growing up. Vincent became a doctor, as was mentioned earlier.
Yeah, because he promised Norman that he would help kids that they send over.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Pete, tiny little kid Pete, he becomes an adult. He looks like he's like in his early 20s, late teens by the end of it.
Pete. Wait,
Little tiny smart
Phil?
kid. Phil. I'm bad with names.
At one point, we saw a woman with blonde hair blowing out candles on a birthday cake. I'm not sure who that was. Maybe it was one of the mothers or something. And
It
we
could
also
be.
saw a woman with brown hair with a baby. I'm not sure who that was.
It's probably one of the mothers, I feel like. My question is, like, did they all live together, or, like, they split up into different homes? Did they just, like, give them all a giant, like, apartment building, and we're like, okay, all of you are, like, I don't know what and how they ended up living, but it seems like they all remained. They probably remained pretty close because they all came from this. They all have a similar background, but like you know, they all seem to settle in New York around near each other at least.
Yeah. And
Um,
then during the Demon World montage, we saw Emma and her crew traveling through the mountains. At one point, we saw them in front of a crowd of humans. One of the humans was hugging Norman, so I think it's safe to say that those were some of the human kids that
or
Norman
rescued.
rescued prior to reuniting with Emma and Ray.
Mhm. Um, I'm gonna say this: they look like a D&D group. They look like a party from D&D. And there's got to be. I don't know. I'm a little mad I didn't get to see the story. Still mad. I wanted to know. I want to see what happens because we get like I'm gonna keep mentioning it. Jesus, Emma.
Yeah, we see
Why is she
Emma.
walking on water?
We see Emma in front of that dragging. We see Sonju and Mujika talking to an old man. We see the group standing in the mountains, gazing over a city at nighttime. We see some ruins after a battle. We see Mujika being ordained, so presumably the old queen was overthrown and Mujika became the new queen of the demon world.
We got a really cool little like print like kind of picture of like Mujika and Emma holding hands and their head pressed against their head like foreheads pressed against each other, which I thought was pretty cool. Um, I would like to know the backstory of it, but it was pretty cool. I'm gonna keep saying that. I'm like this is like 2 seasons worth of information here. Why am I getting this in 45 seconds? I don't know. That's my opinion. I'm sure. I'm sure some other people are like, yeah, thank God it's over. No, I'm sorry. I should stop bragging on this. It was pretty well done for like a cutscene. It was just like
A
meh.
montage.
Uh, Montage. I don't know why I said cutscene. Apparently, we've been playing a video game for the last like 11 episodes instead of watching an anime. That's what it felt like, though, didn't it? It felt like a cutscene.
And at the very end of the episode, we see Emma and the others finally return to the human world and reunite with Phil and the others.
Yes, we did see that,
And as you
which is
mentioned
really sweet.
earlier, Phil is a lot older now. Like, when I first saw him, I didn't realize it was Phil. Like, we got a view of the back of his head, and his hair kind of reminded me of Ray.
Yeah, I have to admit, I thought it was Ray too,
Or Dawn.
or I could have been Dawn. Maybe no,
But
no, I thought it
I
was Ray.
didn't think it was Phil. So, yeah, obviously, a lot of time has passed since the kids split up.
Yeah, I don't know. It was a sweet ending. It was nice. I'm just mad that like all this epic stuff happened and we saw none of it. Like they could have done 2 seasons, like one season where they're like traveling out and gathering support, and they're like, getting ready and figuring out what they're gonna do, and then the next season's them slowly like defeating the queen and returning order to the world, or bringing freedom to the world and liberating people, and ends in this epic climactic battle. And the last episode of the whole anime could have been them reuniting with the people on the other side of the gate, but no, we got like a 40-minute cutscene.
A
It's just
40-minute cutscene. Like this.
40 seconds. That's some long ass cutscene. Can you imagine playing a video game and a 40-minute cutscene just starts? Hold on, let me pull out the popcorn. We're watching a movie. It's unskippable too. So every time you restart the game, you have to watch it again. Okay.
Okay. But yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah, that would have been a good setup for if they were doing more than 2 seasons of the show. That would have been a good setup. Like season 1 focused on escaping from the farm, season 2 focused on surviving in the outside world and trying to come up with a solution that helps both sides.
Mhm.
Season 3 focuses on recruiting people, as you said, and preparing, making the preparations necessary to confront the nobles. And then
Yeah, and
final season, confront the nobles,
you know what?
take
You could have,
over, and return to their family in the human world. Like,
and
I
you know,
get what you're saying.
I can see it now. The Jesus Emma moment facing the dragon at the end of season 3. It's just like in Avatar: The Last Airbender, in that like second to last episode where Aang meets the like turtle dragon guy and
The
learns spirit
lion
bending.
turtle, yeah.
Yeah, the lion turtle. It could have been that for like that sort of moment for Emma. You know, learning her destiny and all that. It could have included like the mission of the gods and all that. As she faces this dragon, bestows upon her all this ancient wisdom, sort of thing. In the last episode of season 3, and but no, we just get a quick glimpse at Jesus Emma, and we're just like, how you walk on water? What did I miss? Too many questions. I want to know. Okay, rant over. I will just not rant about this again. $20 if you ever get me to talk about my anger about this ending again.
Okay,
Not gonna do
so.
it. I'm done doing it. Not gonna do it.
Okay. Anyway, I think there were a
All
few
right.
more things I wanted to briefly mention before wrapping up.
Okay. What are the other things?
Well, one thing I wanted to mention was how, like, this episode makes me wish that we got a little more time with Phil. In season 1, we saw him in the background a few times. Like, we noticed there were scenes where it seemed like he noticed that something was up. Like, he was slowly beginning to realize what was going on around him. So when Emma recruited him at the end of season 1, he wasn't surprised by the story she told him. When he discovered the truth, he was like, this makes sense. I noticed
Yeah.
things seemed off. So that's what's been going on. So,
Yeah.
and then this season, we really don't see him until the last 2 episodes. Like the previous episode and then this episode. Like we saw him reunite with Emma here, and we see him and Emma holding hands, and also the reunion at the end. Like, all this kind of implies that they actually have a really close connection, and it makes me wish we had more time with Phil this season.
Yeah. It
That we
feels
could
like
have
Phil.
learned more about his connection with Emma, or more
It
about
feels
what
like
he's been doing. Sorry,
It feels
you
like
talk
Phil.
now.
No, yeah,
Go
no.
ahead.
I'm just gonna like. No, it's okay. I talk over you sometimes, so you're getting payback. um, it feels like Phil is absolutely a character who needed more. Who, the way he's written, it feels like a more important character than he comes across as by the amount of screen time he gets. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I get what you're
Like
saying.
like, he. It feels like he should have more screen time for the way they're treating him, and I imagine again that the manga probably spent a lot more time on him, and that like the sort of important moments with Phil don't feel as impactful in the anime because they're not. We don't have as much build up
I mean, I
as probably
still
existed in the.
I still got a little emotional when he reunited with Emma in the previous episode, and when I was rewatching season 1 and I noticed him in the background, I thought it was cool, but yeah, I get what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, he felt like the most important of the background characters besides Small Face Boy. Because Small Face Boy is the most important background character in this show. Um, you didn't think I'd bring it back up? No. He feels like the most important of the background characters, but he feels like he should be more of a secondary main character rather than a tertiary one.
Like, he
And
feels
the amount of
underutilized.
yeah, he feels underdeveloped for like the ending kind of implies that he's like more important than he seemed to be throughout the rest of the anime because like because like Ray, Norman, and Emma are like the main characters. Secondary characters are sort of uh Helga and
Don and Gilda?
Dawn and Gilda. Thank you. I was about to say kid who has cell phone. I can't remember names. I'm sorry. Like they seem like secondary characters along with like Mojika and Sinju, and then like tertiary characters. You start getting into like the characters who are always there, but they're not really important. Like most of the kids in the group, they're like there. They get some development, but they're still kind of more in the background.
Mm-hmm.
They kind of focus. Their main function is more as a group, and the way I was at least perceiving it is it felt like Philip. Uh, felt like Philip. His name is Philip.
Phil.
Uh, Phil. I was close. Phil. Phil was like sort of like the main of the tertiary characters. Like he was like the one character representation of the tertiary characters. Because like anytime you need to interact with the tertiary characters, he is a good representation of them, or he is like one of the main representations of the tertiary characters. He's our view into the other group of kids on a personal level.
Mm-hmm.
That's at least how I saw him, and I can imagine someone's probably going to disagree with me. It just felt like it felt like he had a much. It felt like he was implied to have a much closer relationship to Emma than all his other siblings, besides Norman and Ray, and Helga and
Gilda.
Dawn. Gilga. I don't know why I keep calling her Helga. I don't. I really don't know. She just screams. I just look at her and it screams Helga. Uh, I don't know. I keep thinking she's German for some reason. Gilga and Dawn. Like it feels like he has like a particularly special connection, and it doesn't. I don't see the development of it. Like I just don't. I don't know. Maybe I don't know. Maybe I'm just not picking up on something that's there, and I'm just like I don't see it, and everyone's like it's right there in front of you. I'm like I'm blind. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like there's probably something that happened in the manga that like deepens our understanding of Phil and the relationship between Emma and Phil, and we just don't see that in the anime. Like, it feels like there's like supposed to be more development between these two that we just don't see.
Hmm.
That's my interpretation. I could also be wrong.
Hmm.
That's an entirely emotional argument, also to point out. That's just me going, this doesn't smell right to me.
Mm-hmm.
Or, taste it and it's like, something's missing. You know, like you have the two like main pieces, but like the connection between them isn't fully there.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, that's mostly what we're doing. Like, this doesn't feel this way. I don't know. That's my interpretation. Right. I'll send it back to you because I've ranted too long again.
Um, Going back to Peter Rattery,
Mhm.
like we talked about, did he agree with Emma in the end? Well, he didn't really seem to think that Emma would be able to change the world. And like
Yeah.
he mentioned the human world too. Like,
I mean, when I say he agreed, when I say that, like, I feel like the possibility that he was wrong, when even the possibility that he was wrong puts into him sort of puts him into a very emotionally painful situation, and that even the possibility that he could be wrong and that they might be right, um, isn't something that he's willing to accept on an emotional level, and that's probably contributed to him deciding to kill himself rather than see if he is wrong.
mm-hmm.
Because he could have just, kept going with them, have said, "No, I'm not gonna kill myself. I'll surrender and be their captive, and when everything goes wrong, I can laugh in their face because I know I'm right and I'm absolutely right." But rather, it was like, well, if I am wrong, then I'd have to live with this, and if I continue to live, then there's a possibility that I could be proved wrong, and I don't want to see that.
Mm.
That was my thought, at least. Then
Okay.
again, yeah, that was my sort of thought. It wasn't that like he immediately agreed with her. It's like there's a possibility I'm wrong, and I don't want to see that be proved.
Mm.
And you know what? In fact, In fact, so much so that I'm going to like try and demoralize them by dying rather than living in their world.
Mm.
I sort of their better world is a worse world for me, so I'm not gonna be there to see it.
Mm.
I'll die, or what do you say? I'll die a rattery.
Yeah, I think I think so.
Yeah, I'll die with what I know and what I was meant to do. And if what I was meant to do dies, then I die with it.
Mm.
The ship goes down. The captain goes down with the ship in a very dark way. Well, the captain going down with the ship is dark, but like,
Right.
yeah, sorry. So what else do you got for me? What do you got to mention for everyone?
Um, well, we
Hmm.
talked about Peter and how Emma seemed to think that he was trapped in his destiny, that everybody was trapped in their destinies, and how Peter didn't believe that he was trapped or didn't want to believe that he was trapped. He thought, like, this is a great mission for the greater good.
Mm, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I. In, I think it's just that's just on the surface. He believed what he was doing was right. He sure this is what he has to do, but I think he viewed it more as an honor to be allowed to be the one to do this rather than a burden. You
Hmm.
know, this is my destiny, and this is like the great thing I'm going to do with my life, and I have the honor of being the one who does it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that sort of thing, rather than it is my rather than I am trapped in this. It is my what's a good way to word it? I think I got that. I think I got that idea across pretty good, right?
Yeah, like, he doesn't feel like he's trapped in it, and, like, I should be honored to be in this position.
Yeah. This is my destiny, and it's a great destiny rather than this is my. He viewed it more as his destiny rather than his fate.
Hmm.
Might be a good way to put it.
So, do you have any more final thoughts? Any specific details you want to talk about with this episode?
Um, no, I already said I won't rant more about the ending and the missed opportunities anymore. So
Mm-hmm.
I can't rant anymore about those. But I think it was a very I think if they had ended the episode without the ending there, that like that sort of
No montages.
yeah, the no montage, that would have been, it would have been a lot, it would have been better, because I think the feeling of missed opportunity, or the feeling of like potential that was squandered there, for like that would have been like a very interesting narrative and a very entertaining narrative to see happen. And those like all that, seeing like all like and all the extra questions that brings, I feel like it would have been nice to have just ended it there. And um you know Emma, even if they didn't, because I don't imagine there's going to be another season, and even if another season didn't come out in the fictional world where they ended this way, you get to end with, okay, Emma's going to make the world here a better place, and the other kids go on and live a better life. Even if they just showed the kids growing up and ended with like Emma coming back across the gate at some point, and didn't show the what happened in the mystical world, or in the demon world, I think that would have been better.
Yeah, I get it.
I don't know. That's just me. I'm like, man, I'm never gonna know what happened. Or I'm gonna read the manga, so I'll know what happened. But like, it feels so wasted.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's my opinion, though. I'm sure there's some people who agree with me, and some people are gonna be like, "How can you feel it's wasted? At least you know what happened."
Hmm.
I don't know. I can understand that. I just, to me, it's like, questions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like
How about you?
little
What's your final thought?
like little tidbits, little sneak peeks of what happens, like
Yeah.
what Emma and the characters do to achieve their goal.
Yeah, just, enough, but like it also leaves enough questions, and you're like, I want to know like the intervening parts, and I want to know more, and I want to get to know these people. I want to see what happens. I want to see the epic fight, not just the spears put in the ground at the end.
Right. I wonder
You
if
know?
any of the kids that Norman rescued and that we saw them hugging during the montage, I wonder if any of them become major characters.
Yeah, that too. Like, who are these people? What are their stories? What are their motivations? It's. I'm ranting about it again. Don't get me ranting about it again.
Okay.
I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what happens in the actual like anime, but like, or not the anime, the manga. It's
Mm-hmm.
just a little disappointing to
Mm-hmm.
like you know see.
Right. On an unrelated
But
note,
anyway,
I kind of liked Norman and Vincent's fist bump, like when
yeah,
they parted ways, because they've known each other the longest, and as we've been saying for the last several episodes, Vincent was Norman's right hand man, and
yeah,
basically showing showing a little bit of that connection. Like the Lambda kids are relatively underdeveloped.
yeah. It would have been nice to see, because like I imagine that if they had continued into like new seasons, we would have gotten more development about the Lambda kids. Because now we have the Lambda kids, Helga,
Gilda.
Gilda, Dawn, and the initial three. Can have more opportunity for them to develop, and we get to actually like see more about them, and they get to go through their trauma, and like we get to start seeing them develop as human beings and all that, and their relationship to everyone else, and that would have been really cool.
And
Not gonna happen
well
though.
well that got me thinking too, like basically the manga probably focuses on Emma, Ray, and Norman's journey. Does it focus more on how hard does it focus on Gilda, Dawn, and the others like struggling to adjust to life in the real world? Like
Maybe.
like what you were saying about trauma and stuff made me think of, yeah, how What's it gonna be like being in this new world now?
Yeah, I have to adapt to school because a lot of them are like 12. Like all of them are under 12. They're gonna have to, presumably when they're gonna go to this world, they're gonna to like the human world. They're gonna get integrated into the world school, into our school systems, and have to go through all of that.
We saw
Go
them
to high
boarding a bus
school.
at one point.
Yeah, that's a huge shock. I mean, I'm sure they have pretty good education from like the mothers, but like, still like it's going to be a huge shock, culture shock, whole different world. Living in a city versus living in the kind of the wilderness is one shock, but also the fact that like they were hunted before. They were like in danger all the time, and now they're safe. That is going to be a really hard adjustment for them.
Do you think any of them will have PTSD or?
Yeah, more than likely. Even if it's not intently mentioned, they're gonna like struggle with like not just adjustment, but like reliving all the things that they went through. Like just even the night when they got attacked at the base. The place they were supposed to, the sanctuary, the base, the little bunker.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's trauma. That would have been traumatizing enough. Like that itself would I can't imagine that they would have flashbacks. The only thing I can say is thank God they have each other, and that would probably be the narrative, is like they have each other and they can get through this together, even if it is hard. That would probably be the narrative.
Right, because like with the shelter, they thought it was their safe space. They thought they finally achieved safety and freedom, and then for it to be ambushed, like, will it be hard for them to accept that they're really safe now? Like, is this real?
Yeah, I don't know. All I'm gonna say is that there's a lot of stuff that they have to go through. And I mean they're also like all permanently marked. They all still have the numbers on their
Yeah,
neck.
that's true. Like, it's interesting that they still have those tattoos. I mean, like, you can get tattoos removed.
So that's incredibly painful.
Mm. And like the
It,
demons
it,
even said to Isabella, if you get the kids back, we'll remove your number. So it is possible to have the numbers removed. It's interesting that they never got them removed.
well, they might have at some point, but still, they're still there. They still have them. Um, I don't know. The weird thing I'm thinking about is the fact that like high school is like a very high school and middle school particularly are like very rough times. I can't imagine that like the kids they go to school with are going to be very nice to them. Like because they're going to be equivalently a bunch of very close weirdos to the kids who they go to school with, and they're all going to have these markings on their neck. You know, it's all
Yeah.
going to be.
Like,
I don't
that's
know.
another thing. Like, how much does the human world know about the demon world and the farm system? Like, how will they react to these the former livestock children? Like, how much do they know about that?
No idea. We have to find out. Um, well, we can't find out by watching the anime, but we'll have to read the manga to find out.
Like, assuming that the
Damn it, gotta
manga
read now.
assuming that the manga covers the human world stuff.
Um, I mean, the flashback gives me a feeling that they would at least do a couple of like panels about it, and I mean, it could make for some interesting storytelling.
Hmm.
So I hope they would, but
Yeah.
you never know. At worst, we can always just come up with our own fiction about it.
Mm-hmm.
So what else do you want to talk about?
Um. I'm not sure. I think I covered most of what I wanted to talk about, and we're almost at an hour and 30 minutes. So,
Longest episode yet.
yes.
And a lot of it is just me ranting and going off on weird tangents. You're welcome, audience. I hope you had fun.
So, any more final thoughts on the episode?
Well, leave your comments down in the description to see what anime we talk about next. Because we're out of our weekly upload. We have to find something else to get like a weekly upload about. uh, um, yeah, but if you enjoyed, please like, comment, and subscribe, and we look forward to hearing from you again.
Thank you for watching the video. Don't be afraid to like and subscribe. Check out our other videos if you haven't already. Be sure to share this video, and hopefully we'll see you again soon. Bye!
Bye, and have a wonderful time.